Hello, my name is Matt Smiley, and I'm the sales manager at the University of Minnesota Press. I have the pleasure of calling on most Amoeba stores in the state of Minnesota, and Bruce Miller Trade Book Marketing represents our titles to stores in all of the other Amoeba and Gleba territories. If you have any questions about any of the books I'm presenting here, if you'd like to take a closer look at anything, please just let either of us know. Before I start, I wanted to let everyone know about a special that we'll be running through the month of October in conjunction with the ABA to celebrate University Press Week. For any orders placed through our reps throughout the month of October, we'll be offering an additional 5 points and 90-day dating on any in-stock items. Check out the specials page on the ABA site or contact me for more details. University Press Week this year will be from November 8th to the 12th. So let's go ahead and dive in. We'll start with We Are Meant to Rise. This is a powerful anthology of reflections on the lived experience of artists, writers, and poets of color throughout the year 2020, which was, of course, one of the most unsettling and unprecedented years in the history of our country. The contributions here, which have all been curated by editors Carolyn Holbrook and David Mura, bring a really diverse mix of experiences into focus. Some offer meditations on deeply intimate topics like family, community, and identity, while others revisit some of the more universal challenges and traumas we all endured in the past year, such as the pandemic, the murder of George Floyd, the nationwide uprisings that followed, the election, and so on. Minnesota, and particularly Minneapolis, was the epicenter for some of those pivotal events that gave shape to our country's recent history. And I and other people here at the press found it to be both revelatory and cathartic to revisit those events through the eyes of these great writers that we have assembled here, like Louise Erdrich, Shannon Gibney, Bao Phi, Kao Kalia Yang, Marcy Rendon, Diane Wilson, and so many others. All right, next we have a new one from Tom Rademacher. Tom is a hardworking and hilarious junior high school English teacher. He was the teacher of the year a few years back for the state of Minnesota. And his first book with us, which was titled It Won't Be Easy, was a clear-eyed, frank, boots on the ground primer for teaching high school. Here with Raising Ollie, he takes a similar approach to the topic of parenting a gender nonconforming child, and he applies his signature blend of memoir and how-to writing for other parents whose children may be exploring gender identities. The book follows Tom and his gifted and super artistic third grader Ollie through the course of a big and challenging year. As Tom helps Ollie find their way in a new school for gifted and talented children, Ollie's experiences ultimately lead Tom to re-examine everything he thought he knew about kids and schools and teaching and identity. Tom's got a great sense of humor. He brings that to bear here, along with incredible openness, vulnerability, and honesty. And this one should really resonate with any parent or teacher out there who wants to help their kids live more fully and completely as themselves. All right, next we have the second installment of Sigrid Undset's 4-part medieval saga Olav Audunson. This is the first undertaking of a new English translation of this work in nearly 100 years, which has definitely been needed. And the first volume that we did in this series, which was titled Vows, was very well received. The translator of this work, Tina Nunnally, just has a great knack for bringing to life the world of Norway during the late 13th century, which was a time of nonstop political maneuvering, mounting tensions between church and secular powers, and violent feuding among noble-born families. I don't have time to get into like the real sprawling plot here, but passion, murder, guilt, and redemption all play out over the course of this saga amid Undset's beautifully atmospheric descriptions of this fictional city of Hestviken, which is perched high on the mountains alongside the Oslo fjord. We're on track to roll out a new volume in this series each fall for the next few years. The first installment received quite a bit of national review attention. Hopefully this one will do the same. And just really quick, I want to show you why this is one of my favorite covers, because when I click this, you can see this composite of Olaf's face come together there with the 4 volumes all together. Ooh. All right. Next, we have Winter's Children, which will be the most comprehensive book ever written on Nordic skiing in America. As you'll see from some of the slides that I'm going to show you, it's going to be a gorgeous package, richly documented through 300 or so images, and it's written in a way that weaves together a ton of information into a wonderfully readable text. By default, just much of the nation's history with Nordic skiing is the history of skiing here in the upper Midwest. So there's a heavy focus on the people and the places and the stories of this region. But I think this is going to be an immensely popular gift book for cross-country skiers everywhere for many, many years to come. All right, next up we have a cookbook that I'm really excited about. This one comes from Will Steger, who's paired up here with consummate cookbook pro Beth Dooley, and they're offering up stories and recipes that honor nature, satisfy the palate, and nurture the body. If you're not familiar with the Steger Wilderness Center, or for that matter with Will, he is a legendary Arctic explorer, educator, and environmentalist. His career spans nearly 5 decades of climbing, paddling, dog sledding, and trekking all over some of the least hospitable parts of the world. When he's not exploring, he's up here, and you can see it in the picture, at the Steger Wilderness Center in northern Minnesota, which is part homestead, part wilderness school, part eco lab, and part policy think tank. It's a beautiful facility that he and a team of volunteers built by hand over several decades using a blend of modern green technologies and wilderness techniques. And when those volunteers get hungry, Will and his team keep them fed and happy, and this book shows how. Like the center itself, these 90 recipes are focused on sustainability, ecological stewardship, and a deep connection with the surrounding land. And just every single one of them looks delicious. Now, unfortunately, this book fell victim to some of those printer backups and industry-wide supply chain issues that I'm sure you've all been hearing about, and it's slipped out of the holiday season for us and into February of 22, but it should be amazing when it finally gets here. All right, next we have Linda Lagarde Grover's Gichigami Hearts, which is a slim collection of 12 loosely connected essays and autobiographical stories that orbit around Linda's family history and Ojibwe life in Duluth in the 20th century. Topics here range from the dramatic rock outcroppings that dominate the hilly landscape of the city to stories of the wolf in oral tradition, from experiences of friends sent to live in Indian boarding houses to her family's history along the northern shores of Lake Superior. One of the elements of this collection that I really appreciate is its range across genre. While most of the essays here are memoiristic nonfiction, the third part of the book presents Linda's tellings of the Nanabusu stories from Ojibwe oral tradition, which are fused into a contemporary story set in Duluth that encompasses the older oral stories. So she's doing some really interesting things here with this hybrid blend of writing styles and genre, and she's getting a lot of attention for her work. Last year, Oprah featured her on a list of 31 Native writers to read in 2021, alongside luminaries like Natalie Diaz, Joy Harjo, Brandon Hobson, Robin Wall Kimmerer, and others. We couldn't agree more. She's definitely someone we should all be reading in 2021 and beyond. All right, I love this next book that we have from Sarah Stonich. It's called Reeling, and it's a follow-up to her novel Fishing. That first novel followed pro fisher turned accidental public television talk show host Rayanne Dahl as she navigates the difficulties and dysfunctions of her family, her romantic possibilities, and her new career. In Reeling, Rayanne is off on a new adventure. Her show is shooting their second season on location in New Zealand, where she and her crew crisscross the islands to pursue remarkable women who fish. Many of the same entanglements Rayanne faced in the first book are back to pose new challenges for her, and Sarah weaves them all together with deft plotting, hilarious dialogue, and memorable new characters. Anyone who enjoys the outdoors or who could use a little armchair travel in our era of closed borders should really enjoy this one. And I'll close here with The Last Bookseller. This is a title that I hope doesn't rankle too many of you out there who I know are still very much in the bookselling business. Author Gary Goodman explains the title of his memoir right off the bat in his introduction, saying that he's the last of a certain kind of bookseller. He's the last of the hunter-gatherers of the book business, the travelers, the pickers, the ones who spent their lives rooting around basements and book bins and bookstores looking for rare books or secondhand books that might otherwise have been lost. For many years, he owned various antiquarian bookstores around the Twin Cities, and he must have been pretty good at what he did because, as his author bio notes, he managed to put 6 kids through college selling secondhand books. And in this one, in The Last Bookseller, he offers a lively look back at his career in those golden pre-internet years of the old-time used book business. Along the way, he introduces readers to a colorful array of fellow book hunters, along with famous rare book thieves and forgers and map cutters. He's just a really natural storyteller who writes with great wit and humor and just a bit of melancholy for the books and the stores. and the thrill of the hunt that have been replaced by search engines and algorithms. I think this is going to appeal to bibliophiles everywhere, and it should be a great hand sell for you this holiday season. So that about does it for me. I've created an Edelweiss collection of these titles, which you should be able to find on the University of Minnesota Press Edelweiss page. You can find digital review copies of most of these titles there. And I've also tagged which of them will be featured in MIBO's winter catalog. We've got quite a few of them in there this year. So thanks for sticking with me to the end here. And thanks, as always, for helping our books find their way to your customers. We appreciate it.